Here are my thoughts on the first generation of Pokémon. Pokémon is my favorite TV series of all time. The first generation of Pokémon is absolutely legendary. I mean, it influenced an entire generation. It's a show about Ash Ketchum from Pallet-Town, and this kid has one goal in his mind: to be a Pokémon master. He'll stop at absolutely nothing to be the very best. He'll travel across the land, searching far and wide. I'm sure you've heard the theme song before. Joined by his partner Pikachu and his friends Misty and Brock, you're sure to enjoy nearly 28 years of television. My goodness, it's been 28 years. When I was a kid, I started with the first generation of Pokemon, the original 151. I memorized all the Pokemon, bought all the trading cards, and yes, played all the games. I couldn't get enough Pokemon. For the first 10 years of my life, I didn't really have access to the internet. The only time I could use the internet was on the computers at school or at the public library. Technically, my oldest brother did have a desktop, but I was the youngest kid in my family and I pretty much never got to use it. So my access to it was pretty limited. That meant no watching TV shows online. We had a very basic cable plan and our plan didn't have Cartoon Network, so I didn't have access to any Pokemon episodes. I used to go over to my friend's house to watch Pokemon at 5 o'clock almost every day though. His family had an upgraded cable plan and he was nice enough to let me come over and watch Pokemon every day. Every once in a while, we would find some series episodes for Rent at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, and we would watch it that way. I had a couple of VHS tapes. I actually still have those VHS tapes, but that was pretty much it when it came to how I was able to access watching Pokemon. What about the show? For me, I think the show is mostly nostalgia, but every time I watch through it, I'm reminded of how much I enjoy the show. It's funny how as you get older, I'm 28 now, your perception on shows that you watch as a kid changes and kind of stays the same too. I remember being filled with awe, eyes locked in on screen focused, couldn't break my attention if you tried, in total immersion of awesome appreciation for this completely satisfying, overwhelming, dopamine catalyst of a show called Pokemon. The first time I watched the show, I was hooked, and believe me, I know hooked. I used to smoke. You see that, dumb guy? Smoking's horrible for you kids. Don't smoke, watch Pokemon instead. I also used to ride a motorcycle. I had that long, blonde, Fabio looking hair. Looks cool, right? Yeah, cool until I fell doing 45 in a parking lot. You see that? Looks bad, right? Well, that's actually an x-ray of my dog. And don't worry, he's fine. He didn't fall off the motorcycle. But believe me, it wasn't fun falling off that motorcycle. Seriously, don't smoke. You could die. But this isn't a smoking ad. This is a Pokemon video, so let's get back to it. I remember doing anything just to stay up on a school night and rewatch that same old episode on a VHS tape. So I'm sure you can imagine how excited I was when my parents finally bought Wi-Fi. I mean, it was revolutionary for us, like we had left the Stone Age and finally entered the Age of Information. And when I found out that I could watch every Pokemon episode in order on sketchy websites, there was no stopping me. I would binge watch so much Pokemon. I would watch probably 3 to sometimes even 12 episodes a day. My family had one laptop that we all shared, and my mom would make us take 30-minute turns on it, so I could only squeeze so many episodes in one day. I must have watched over 1,000 episodes the first year we got that laptop. It was my favorite thing to do. I couldn't get enough of it. I still remember the debates we'd all have about which starter was the best. I mean, I always chose Charmander, but I think they're all great designs. They absolutely knock these designs out of the park. They look amazing. Kids today in 2025 know who Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle are. I'm so glad the popularity of this show has lasted so long. I think it's really cool that I can have a conversation with my 12-year-old cousin and he knows what Pokemon is. I really like how easy it is to watch. I can pop on an episode, grab a snack, sit down on my couch, and consume a seemingly endless amount of entertainment. I love how clear the plot of the show is. A kid wants to be the very best. He wants to prove he's the very best by honing his skills, getting all 8 gym badges, and winning the ultimate competition to prove he's the top dog. You don't know exactly how he's gonna get there, but you can tell he's gonna get there. And he's full of heart. Gotta love Ash, he's full of heart. Also, the rivalries in the first generation seem to be more serious. I wanted Ash to beat Gary so badly because he was such a jerk to Ash, and when Ash finally did beat him, it was a great feeling. As a kid, I could feel the rage for Ash when Gary disrespected him so badly, but Gary still had a lot of personality, as compared to, I don't know, Paul in Gen 4, whose personality is kind of just jerk. I feel like the character development in this generation was more about getting to know Ash rather than him maturing a whole lot, but it was a great way to start off the series. Now, don't get me wrong, I love all generations of Pokemon, but this generation of Pokemon had the most heart, in my opinion. This was the genesis of Pokemon, and every new generation of Pokemon kind of goes off of this. New region, new Pokemon, new friendship, new rivalries, etc. Pokemon Indigo League is the true OG of Pokemon. You can tell just by watching this show that the Pokemon team poured their heart and soul into it, and there's a reason why it's a hit. There's a reason why kids all around the world watch this show and still watch it today. In my opinion, this generation of Pokemon seems more sincere, and what I mean by that is, the way the friendships feel in this generation are similar to the type of friendships a bunch of friends that lived in the same neighborhood would have with one another. It doesn't feel like the characters are trying to be anything except the characters they were written to be. In some of the newer generations, in my opinion, it appears that some characters are given such dramatic, over-the-top qualities that whatever that quality is their personality. These characters all have specific roles, like Misty's a water Pokemon trainer, but her personality is so unique that it isn't completely consumed by the fact that she's a water-type Pokemon trainer. I feel like not only in Pokemon, but in more recent shows in general, most of the personalities given to characters are copy and paste personalities, with maybe one over-the-top personality trait or quirk that consumes every other individuality about themselves. You ever see a character in a show that's just screaming and bouncing all over the place all the time? Their character is just excited. It's not really anything else. It's a mindless copy of an emotion that will get your attention only for a moment, and once it passes, they're so completely bland that they're forgotten. Where's the touch of humanity that once made these characters seem alive? Where's that special human touch that AI can't dream of? Now, I'm not talking about any character in particular, but I'm sure you've watched a show with the traits I just mentioned, or something similar to it, and that's one thing I love about this show. Each one of these characters have heart. They are not copy and paste, done a million times over personalities. They're individual, interesting, and unique. The show is tasteful, exceptional, and very well made. However, there were a few episodes in the early Pokemon series that did not need to be as dark as they were. There's an episode called Charmander the Stray Pokemon. This is an episode that's clearly about this poor Charmander blinded by loyalty and trust for his abusive and neglectful trainer. Charmander the Stray Pokemon is a difficult episode to watch. Damien, who's pretty much the biggest jerk in all of cartoon history, clearly ditched Charmander when he thought it wasn't strong enough. The writers weren't afraid to show a bit of the darker side in this generation of Pokemon. It was clear that in this show, some people didn't do the right thing and they got away with it. More so than just Team Rocket trying to steal Ash's Pikachu, but never really being successful in their endeavor. It's clear that the writers were going for more of a dramatic feel for some episodes in this generation. The Spotlight episode they gave Charmander was not a happy one. And yeah, I know Damien ultimately got what he deserved in the end, and I can see the lesson behind the plot of the episode. And although I wouldn't change anything in the episode, I always wish that this was a happier one. I can see how it kind of goes with Charmander's backstory. It's like, okay, he trusts Ash, and then he kind of becomes too powerful for his own good, and then just watch the Orange Islands, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, look at this kid get toasted. He deserved that, right? What about the games? Pokemon wouldn't really be the same without the games. When I was a kid, my grandpa gave my mom money to go buy my brother and I Game Boy Colors. I think they were $100, but I can't really remember. I would play this thing whenever I got the chance. During the day, at night, I remember trying to use the street lights to see the screen at night. Yeah, the Game Boy Color didn't come with a backlight, but now I've got this thing, the Game Boy Operator, and honestly, it's been an excellent product. It's pretty cool because you can use it to create a save file on your PC, change the battery in your cartridge, and then load your save file back onto your cartridge, so you don't lose your Pokemon. For those of you who don't know, these games are incredibly broken, but I kind of love that about them. For example, due to an error in coding, Ghost types had no effect on Psychic types. That means the only weakness Psychic types had in Gen 1 were Bug types. And that's just one example. Did anyone else catch Missing No outside of Cinnabar Island, or teleported away from the kid just past the Nugget Bridge so you could get, Mew? I remember my mind being absolutely blown after another kid showed me that. I mean, how did a kid back in 2003 know about that? I just looked it up and apparently 54.6% of US households had internet access in 2003. Maybe he looked it up online? Who knows? The fact these games are broken gives them more character in my opinion, and these games are still really popular today in 2025. I mean, that's pretty cool, they've been around since literally when I was born, and people are still playing it today and making videos about it online and coming up with all sorts of challenges. I think it's awesome it's still around and it's still this popular. As much as I like these games and how enjoyable they still are today, it's clear that these games were the groundwork, helping to pave a road to better games in the future. That being said, what they were able to accomplish with the technology they had at the time is nothing short of amazing, and they were able to do it on a handheld device. It didn't even need to be plugged in. Absolutely revolutionary for its day and age. They're respectable games that have stood the test of time. I mean, do you know anyone that's never heard of Pokemon? I don't. The first generation of Pokemon will always hold a special place inside of the coolness box in my brain, and a legendary status worldwide. I think people will be playing and watching Pokemon for the rest of my life. I know I will be. I'm glad to have been born at the dawn of Pokemon. It's just a cool thing that I'm glad I get to enjoy, and I plan on playing it, watching it, and consuming it for the rest of my life. So I've got to know, what are your thoughts on the first generation of Pokemon? Do you think Pokemon's gonna be around for the next 100 years? Tell me some of your memories you had growing up. Drop a comment below if you feel like it. And if you like this video, will you please like and subscribe? I'm trying to grow my channel, and to be honest, I can't really do it without you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay blessed, y'all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.